Welcome to the Barry Tramel Show here on selloutcrowd.com. And today we have a very special guest on a very special week. The University of Cincinnati opens its Big 12 Conference history Saturday at historic Nippert Stadium. They're hosting the Sooners. Fox's Big Noon Kickoff will be there. And we are joined by UC Athletic Director John Cunningham, who has shepherded the Bearcats through this transition into the Big 12. John, welcome to the show.
Very great to be on with you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about the rivalry. Now, admittedly, Cincinnati lost to Miami, Ohio, historic rivalry. You guys lost in overtime on Saturday night, took a little air out of the balloon, but still there's got to be a lot of rivalry over UC's first game as a conference member.
Yeah, there is. You know, I had a coach tell me one time that losing is an occupational hazard of what we do, and that could be the case. So we felt that we had our opportunities in that game to really set this thing up to be 3-0 heading into this game, but it didn't happen. We're 2-1. I think we've got a really good team, one of the best offensive teams in the country right now for the Bearcats, and we just are so excited to have Oklahoma come into Nippert Stadium, historic Nippert Stadium. We're going to celebrate 100 years of Nippert Stadium next year. And so I think it's a great way to kick off the Big 12 with the historic program that is the Oklahoma Sooners coming in.
Let's go back to a few months ago. The Big 12 schedule comes out. Cincinnati's Big 12 opener is going to be a home game against Oklahoma. Your Sooners are headed out of the conference. Your one and only shot at a conference game against Oklahoma. How excited was UC to have Oklahoma as the Big 12 opener?
It was the perfect opener for us. I mean, obviously to catch one of those two teams, Texas or Oklahoma, before they left the conference was really important. And to get that game at home, to open it up, it's going to be great weather here. In Cincinnati, it's a great time to play a football game, and it means a lot to our fans. And ticket sales, obviously, this is going to be the hottest ticket in town. Maybe not quite what Taylor Swift was when she was in town a few weeks ago, but it's pretty darn close. And so I've told our donors they got to get on it, and they have. And if anybody's asking for tickets right now, they're going to be out of luck because it's going to be a packed house and really excited. And then you throw in Fox and Big Noon on top of that. And it's just one of those moments where you get to highlight your university and be on that national stage. And I expect that we're going to perform well, in terms of the atmosphere as well as in terms of how our team plays.
Of course, you guys were gracious enough to host me. I came up in April and spent a couple of days on the Cincinnati campus. Was so impressed. The layout as much as anything, the way you've got Nippert packed right into the middle of everything at the bottom of the hill. What kind of atmosphere do you expect out of your fans? What kind of setup? What kind of special accommodations? Where the heck are you going to put the Big Noon kickoff guys?
Yeah, it's a unique setup for us. Like you said, our Nippert Stadium is in the middle of our campus. It is an urban campus, but it has a campus feel, so you get a little bit of both worlds there. But in order for our students to get around to class and things like that, they literally walk in and around our football stadium. So it's open to our student body all day, every day, except for those times where we're playing a game or we have a closed practice. And so it's just, that makes it really unique. But it is a great setup for the type of thing that will happen with Big Noon. We had College Game Day here, and we've got a big commons area that just is right adjacent to the stadium. And so that's where we'll have Big Noon set up. And we've got that area, and then just a little bit of a walk away is what we call the grid. And that's where we have all of our tailgating. And so that's a great spot as well. So it's a really unique atmosphere, but we make it work. And I think it's one of the best college football experiences that you can have is to come to historic Nippert Stadium.
For OU fans making the trip, tell us a little bit about what makes Nippert so unique, what you guys have done to renovate it over the years? I know you've had a massive facilities upgrade in the last 4 or 5 years. Tell us a little bit about what makes Nippert so special.
Yeah, it's that combination of old and new that we've really done a nice job pulling together. So it has that old feel. It's got a few of our classic buildings. This is an architectural school, and so you have a few of the classic buildings that surround Nippert, and then you have some of our new buildings that surround Nippert. I'm right now. I'm in Lindner building, which is adjacent also to our football stadium, and you'll see that anytime you see Nippert Stadium, you'll see this beautiful white building that has these diamond-shaped windows that you can see in the background here, and that's right next to Nippert, and so that's kind of a cool little touch. Again, it's a famous architectural building that was built to go right next to the stadium, and then the great thing is that we've been able to just use our footprint and expand our footprint to welcome in our fans. So we actually have inside of our footprint. When you walk in through the gates and you scan your ticket, you have access to our basketball arena. If you want to go in there, use the restroom, grab some concessions, that's available. And then we have access to our student union as well, what we call the TUC building. So we have concessions and bathrooms in there and places to hang out and TVs going, showing the game. So it's just this unique setup that we have that makes it special. But in terms of the atmosphere, I mean, it's going to be 40,000 strong, and it's tucked in. It's going to be loud as heck, and you really feel like the fans are on top of you when you're in Nippert. That's what makes it special.
Now, John, I have to upbraid you. You were misleading the people a little bit. There are no gates at Nippert Stadium. The gates you're referring to they're portable. They're like there's suggestions as much as anything. There are no gates at this. And when I came, I found it difficult to describe because we really don't have anything like this in Big 12 territory. But you talked about the basketball stadium, the student union. They literally are like 50 feet from the maybe 75 feet from the stadium itself. So it is an incredible, unique experience. I think the game atmosphere, the snake pit that Nippert has become. How difficult was that to build? Was that has that always been the case, or has that been just a product of the recent success? Where did that great game day atmosphere come from?
Yeah, I think it's been built over the last 20 years. It's interesting to talk to our older fans about what Nippert Stadium was like, 30 years ago. When our basketball team under Bob Huggins was rolling, it was all about hoops at that time, and the atmosphere in Nippert was not there. And so, in order to get a basketball ticket, you had to buy a season ticket in football. That's how that worked for a while back in the 90s. And people would show up and they would say they'd have their cooler of beer. I don't know if that's true or not, but they'd say they'd just show up and sit wherever they wanted to, that type of thing. That is not the case anymore. I mean, we are sold out, packed house, standing room only type of situation. And it has that really special feel now. So I think what happened is over the last 20 years, we're one of the most successful football programs in the country, especially just in terms of wins and losses and what we've been able to do in the tradition of great coaching and the great players that have come through here. That has built this incredible atmosphere. We're also a really big university. I don't think people understand, we're over 50,000 students on 3 different campuses this year for the first time, and it's growing. We're one of the few schools that continues to grow over the last few years. And so, our student section is as strong as anywhere in the country, and it is a hot ticket. It is hard to get a ticket as a student into Nippert. We pack them. We make sure that they're all jammed in there so that we get as many of them in there as possible. But there's a lot of students that don't have a chance to have that every game ticket. So that's one of our issues, but it's a good issue to have.
John, you mentioned the basketball tradition, which is well chronicled, going back to Oscar Robertson and beyond Oscar. But when you think about Cincinnati, you think about it as a pro town, and when you think about the colleges, you think about the college basketball. How difficult and what has led to the success has it been to carve out a football niche in an NFL city?
Yeah, Well, I would start with Ohio. Such a big football state, obviously, and the high school football in Ohio is so important to the culture of this entire state. And so you do have the recruiting base right there in your backyard. And I think what it took was the right coaches kind of stacked on top of each other to recognize how you could win here was just really recruiting Ohio, really recruiting that 300-mile radius of Cincinnati, and understanding that. And then you start to build on that momentum. And we talk about wanting one of our key action items for our athletics department is let's be Cincinnati. Let's be Cincinnati, because I think the city itself can define who we are as an athletic department. It's a tough, gritty city, but it's a city that when you love it, it'll love you back tenfold. And we wear Cincinnati across our chest, and that means something to this town. And it's a very loyal fan base. They've been loyal to their pro sports teams for a long, long time, and so many people are connected to this university. As big as we are in the heart of this city, that it's not hard to get a fan base that's really, really loyal to the Bearcats, and it's just grown over time. But we've got it rolling right now.
John, let's go back a little bit. You became athletic director in 2019, but before that, even Cincinnati football was very successful. A variety of coaches, people know well, Mark D'Antoni, the Brian Kelly's, Butch Jones, lots of success. You were in what was considered a power conference, the Big East. Cincinnati goes to two major bowl games, an Orange Bowl, a Sugar Bowl. Then the Big East fell apart, and you guys were outside of that power structure for a while. How difficult was that to navigate back? You saw some of this from afar. You joined in 2019, tried to finish the job, but how difficult was that for Cincinnati to get inside the cool kids club and then have to try to get back?
Yeah, it created scar tissue for our fan base, to be honest. That was a brutal time to have that shift occur and to not be in that power conference when you felt like a power conference level school. And we've always felt like that was our identity. We say that we outperform our resources and continue to do that even after the Big East situation. And the American was a great landing spot for us. Don't get me wrong. It allowed us to continue to grow. That's a great conference, great teams. And we were able to obviously, do some special things in that conference that if and when there was ever an opportunity, we were going to be ready. And that opportunity occurred when Texas and Oklahoma decided not to renew their grant of rights. And then it was just a matter of just, hitting it at the right time and, give so much credit to Coach Fickle, so much credit to our president and our board of directors and all of our donors that saw the vision of, if we continue to speculatively invest, that if and when it happened, we were going to be ready and we were going to get that call, and we did. So, right place, right time this go around, and that means a lot to our fans, probably more to our fan base than to a lot of others because of what happened in the Big East.
When you come to Cincinnati as AD in 2019, what did you like about the potential of UC? What was going on? What you saw could be done? What did you like about Cincinnati when you got there in 2019?
I loved the success in football and basketball specifically. When you looked at the number of bowl games, the number of NCAA tournament appearances that we had stacked up, not many schools in the country were doing it at that level. And so the potential was always there in those sports. And those sports, those revenue sports drive everything else, and they make everything else easy. When you're successful, specifically in men's basketball and football, but also women's basketball, when you're successful in those sports, every other sport benefits and everything becomes a little bit easier. So that was obviously what I looked at immediately. But for me, the other piece of the puzzle was the leadership and President Neville Pinto, and that relationship for a young AD or any AD with your president and having alignment, president, board, and athletics department is so crucial. And we've been able to really build that alignment and have the vision that we were going to be a really successful athletics department. So we're going to do that now in the Big 12.
Of course, you get there in 2019. Luke Fickell produces some really good teams. 21, you guys go to Notre Dame and win. You're on the radar. You finish off the job. You make the college football playoff. You spanned a lot of horizons when you made the playoff, not just for Cincinnati, but for people in a lot of different situations. And you sort of opened up the idea that this was not necessarily a closed society. Two questions. How important was making that playoff in 21 for Cincinnati, and how important do you think it was for college football?
I think obviously important for Cincinnati, and I think really important for college football as well. But when we got here, we had a great season. Ended up going to the Peach Bowl during COVID year, and played Georgia in the Peach Bowl, and we were right there with Georgia the whole game. And then we came back the next year with all the expectations on our shoulders, and we were able to have a great year and have that really special year and end up going to the college football playoff. So I always felt like it was a 2-year process probably for a team to crack the code. Kind of needed to set yourself up going into the next year as a top 10 preseason program. And then you have to live up to all the hype, and that's a hard thing to do, and we were able to do that. But I do think it was important for everybody else. We saw what Tulane did last year, and we've seen others, and there's so many good football players and so many good teams and well-coached teams, and you're seeing it again this year. Week in and week out, you don't know who's going to step up and win a game, and I think that the transfer portal can play in to enhancing those teams that are your traditional powers, but I think it also can play into really enhancing some of those other non-Power 5 programs that can end up having great players and great quarterbacks and receivers and doing some special things. So I suspect that we'll continue to see upsets and continue to see some of those teams rise up.
Another beneficiary of Cincinnati's playoff push was the Big 12. You guys accept the invitation in September of 21. In December of 21, you're invited to the college football playoff. The Big 12 status takes a big leap because of that. How do you see Cincinnati's role and position as you enter the Big 12 in terms of how competitive you'll be? How much more needs to be done, those kinds of things. Where do you fit into this new look Big 12?
Well, on the football side, I think we'll be there right away. I really believe that. I think that we, under Coach Satterfield, his recruiting and how he looks at things and how we're doing there, a lot of it is about making sure you have the talent. We have the talent, and we're going to continue to have this great footprint of talent in and around Ohio that we can build off of. So, I feel really confident there. And I think we'll have a style all our own when it comes to the Big 12. I think we're going to, like I said, I think the city defines us a little bit. We're going to be a little bit grittier, a little bit tougher. We always talk about maybe we can just be the toughest team in the Big 12. And I think that you're going to see some of that. And so that kind of then percolates amongst all of our sports. And, we probably have more work to do in some of our Olympic sports than we do in football, men's basketball right now, in my opinion. So we've got to focus there. We've got to focus in on supporting our baseball program and our volleyball program and our women's basketball program. And so there's probably some growth that we need to do there. We also have a brand new facility that is under construction, and so we're going to open up a brand new football performance center and indoor facility here. And that's probably the last piece of the puzzle that we really needed in terms of facilities that we didn't have. And so to have that underway and have that coming online soon is going to be really important too.
Of course, you guys accept the invitation to join the Big 12. You're on the eve of starting play as the new conference member. And all of a sudden, here comes 4 new members. You guys aren't even going to be the new kids on the block by next season. How did you view all the drama and all the intrigue and all the rumors of the 4 Pac-12 schools potentially coming in? And then when they did come in, what's Cincinnati's stance on now being in a league that stretches from Tucson, Arizona to Morgantown, West Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't know if the Pac-12 going away is good for college sports, but I know that it's good for the Big 12, and it's good to be in the Big 12 and on the right side of it, because you talked about the Big East, and when we ended up on the wrong side of that equation. And so for us specifically, I cannot give more credit than is possible to Brett Yormark and his vision to get out and get that television deal done. Ahead of the market, it was crucial. We needed to have that happen, and then we're obviously very excited about those 4 schools. It makes our conference better. It makes our conference better now. It makes our conference better in 6.5 years when we go back out to the market for another television rights deal. And so that is the name of the game. And so I'm really happy about those 4 schools joining, obviously, and we're just going to be a really solid conference. Unbelievable basketball, the best basketball in the country, I think, without question, for a long time. And the football product is going to be absolutely awesome with those schools coming in. So we're going to be set up for a long time, and obviously we feel really good about being in this league and under the leadership of Commissioner Yormark.
What are some of the challenges in a league across 3 and count Arizona's sort of halfway status, 4 time zones, and the scheduling, the camaraderie, those issues? How do you make sure all that fits together? And what kind of talk have you guys made about how to set up a schedule for going forward?
I think it's team dependent and sport dependent a lot. When you charter like we do in football, men's and women's basketball, it's a lot easier to get to places and get in and out. But when you don't charter and you're getting on a commercial flight, and your baseball team's getting on a commercial flight, or your volleyball team, you may have a layover here to get out to the west side of the country. You just got to be more strategic about how you schedule those. And so I think that's really been the conversation right now that we're having, is about the best way that we can play conference games in some of those other sports, and be really strategic about it. Think about the student athlete experience, and the travel and the toll that travel takes on the student athlete. And so we're starting those conversations, and we've got the right people at the table, and there's some experts in that space that can really help us with those schedules that are helping us. And so we'll figure out a way to do that. But overall, we're going to take care of our student athletes, and we're going to make sure that they have great experience. And it's always good to go to new places and experience new things, and going out west is going to be a lot of fun too.
Speaking of new things, the Oklahoma Sooners probably absolutely fit that description for the Cincinnati Bearcats. They don't fit that description for John Cunningham. People may not know, John, you grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, and you're a little young to have experienced the glory days of the 70s, but you got some of the 80s and then into the 90s of the OU Nebraska rivalry. As a Lincoln native, what do you remember about the Oklahoma legacy as it relates to the Huskers?
Well, I'll start in the 70s, and it might have been before my time just a little bit, but I don't know how many times I've seen the Johnny Rodgers punt return, and it's the greatest single call in the history of college football in my mind, which is the radio person for Nebraska saying, "Man, woman, and child, did that put them in the aisles?" And I'll never forget that. I think it's the greatest call in the history of the game. And so it gives me chills just talking about it. But for me, those games, having grown up in the 80s in Nebraska, going to watch, Keith Jackson and some of those great football players for Oklahoma, and, Barry Switzer, and the difference between Barry Switzer and Tom Osborne that just created this great dichotomy there. I lived and died by those games, and had so much respect for Oklahoma. Everybody in Nebraska had so much respect for Oklahoma and those teams and those rivalries. So it means a lot to me. I grew up watching those games. So this is really special to be able to play the Sooners in Nippert as an athletic director at Cincinnati.
And then, of course, you actually attended TCU which was not a Big 12 member at the time, but certainly is now a proud member, and followed you into the playoff in 2022. So do you feel like you're sort of uniquely, not qualified, but uniquely set up to know this new conference that you're in? Because you grew up in Big 8 territory. You attended a school that's now in the Big 12. You sort of, for a guy that's, at Cincinnati athletic director, you've got a lot of experiences that sort of put you in tune with a lot of the Big 12 culture.
Yeah, I think so. So I went to TCU. My wife went to TCU, and then I went back and worked there for 5 years as well. Right around that time. In fact, it was the 5 years that Andy Dalton was the quarterback, and they had great success in the Mountain West Conference and won the Rose Bowl that year. So I do feel like, having 9 years in Texas, I do feel like I have a really good understanding of what the Big 12 is all about, and it's just great football, great fan bases. And can't be more excited about having the Bearcats get a chance to join in on that. Our fans will travel in droves to some of those new locations. We're taking a big group out to Oklahoma State this year, and then obviously come basketball season, we're doing a lot of special things. We're gonna take an extra plane out to Lawrence, Kansas, and go watch the Bearcats play at Fog Allen. And we have somebody over my shoulder here in Oscar that has the all-time record for points scored in Fog Allen, I believe, in something 52 or something like that. So there's a lot of history there, and our fans will eat that up.
Well, this has been fantastic, John. I can tell you the people of Oklahoma are fired up about the Bearcats being in there. Looking forward, Sooners, for this one trip to Nippert, and then Cowboys in the years to come. I certainly enjoyed my trip there. You guys were fantastic hosts. I learned a lot. Circled the date back then. Hey, I'm going to be back at Nippert come September. Can't wait to see the Sooner fans get a taste of an urban setting, of a stadium that's been called the Wrigley Field of college football. I can certainly see why. I think it's going to be a great day in Cincinnati on Saturday, and we certainly appreciate you joining us today, and good luck to the Bearcats.
Well, thank you very much. Excited to have the Sooner fans here. Make sure they try some Skyline chili, and they'll really enjoy the experience in Nippert. I promise that.
Thanks a lot. John Cunningham, right. University of Cincinnati athletic director. Hey, that's going to do it for this show, but we'll be here every week, and you can get this show on from Sellout Crowd here at all the places you get your podcasts: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere that you get it. And also continue to join us here at Sellout Crowd. I will be back next week. See you then.